Howdy, everybody. Here we are again. Another Substack live interview brought directly to you from Toronto, Canada, and Portugal. I have a very special guest today, and his name is Fénix Stardust, a very mystical and poetic name. I'd love to hear a bit more about how you came up with that. And welcome, Fénix, to the Substack channel. And sometimes we just have blogs and other times interviews with very interesting people who I'm attracted to talk with. It's more of a conversation, actually, than a formal interview, an authentic dialogue, perhaps. And each of the people that I bring to the channel here has a message, some kind of service in the world that's helping to make the world a better place. And sometimes it's a personal path of exploration. Uh, Either way, whether it's inward or outward, the vibration that we emit through our daily life and our thoughts and our prayers and actions does affect our community and the world. So I know that you're involved with some very interesting projects. So anyway, say hello to the folks.
Hello, folks. Yeah, thank you so much, Hugh, for the warm invitation. I heard so much about you for many years from my father. For the viewers, my father and Hugh are friends for a long time. And I've been following your Substack and your content on YouTube as well. And indeed, I can attest there's been some really interesting people uh, performing some great service. So I'm honored to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Right. Yeah, well, your father told me about you, Dr. George Lewis, and I believe he is one of the people that I interviewed briefly near the beginning. And he went over to visit you and your clan, your tribe over there in Portugal, and was quite enthusiastic about what you've been putting together and the concept of community. And you've really been uh, going out of your way, literally, to find a place and uh, kind of a container for a concept that you have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Shall I share a little bit about that sort of
Yeah. Well,
that concept?
sure. Just before we dive into that, which will probably be the meat and potatoes or the tofu and vegetables of
The
our
main course.
the main course, yeah. Perhaps you could just give, for a few moments, a little bit about your background, which sounds, at least on the surface level, quite different than what you're up to these days.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, now I'm looking at a chicken in front of me. There's flies buzzing around. I'm in the Portuguese countryside. And those are not my origins. Obviously, I was born in Canada and I guess career and education and being successful in normative society was a big part of my development. Uh, I would also say that I developed quite a personality, quite an ego, the Latin persona mask. And I lived behind that mask, which was honestly a very challenging experience. Even perhaps I wasn't aware of it. I reflect, I share often now that until about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I had never been present one time in my life. Never in the now, in the moment. Maybe when I was playing a game of basketball
Yeah.
in the zone. I guess that's a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I trained as a lawyer, an international sports lawyer, and worked with some of the biggest football teams and players and athletes in the world. And I was a litigator. So I guess I kind of fell in love with words and communication, although at that time it was largely manipulative, quite intellectual.
Right.
And I do my best now not to hold opinions, um, or at least maybe loose opinions or strong opinions held loosely, as opposed to
Mhm.
loose opinions held strongly.
Yeah.
Um,
It's amazing how
and after,
quickly we can jump to judging, and it's almost like a defense mechanism for coping or surviving in the world that we constantly are looking for danger and threat and how people are different and maybe not trustworthy. And so that can be the basis of it. for all kinds of layers of judgments, which turn into opinions and sometimes very firmly held opinions, fixed, idée fixe, as they say in French. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead
Yeah.
for jumping in there.
No, it's grand, and yeah, indeed. I guess I spent 7 years of my life literally speaking to a judge,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
trying to prove my points. And I suppose I was involved with a few high-profile disputes. The Lance Armstrong case was one of them. Some racism events, some stadium violence, and working in the world of football is quite an egotistical game, quite literally. So I guess I tired of that. Um, and I sought to create something rather than executing somebody else's, fighting someone else's fight.
right,
So I entered the world of tech entrepreneurship, and again, using words, did a lot of storytelling, raised millions of dollars, and did that whole company building thing for a few years in London. And that was cool. It was a quite an adventure. And one day I received an email from an investor saying, "We're going to give you what you want, what you've asked for," which was a big whack of cash. And I was in my central London apartment, and I had a basketball court near to me. That's one of my favorite things. I've referenced it twice now.
right.
And I was going on dates, and I thought, "Oh, I've really made it. I'm the guy now." And I got really drunk, and I was super rude to some people I really cared about. And so the next day, I woke up late, and I thought to myself, I've climbed to the top of this mountain, and I don't really like being here. And all I can see is another bigger mountain in front of me.
Right.
So that afternoon, I did something very spontaneous. I booked a flight to Portugal, and I arrived that day for a 2 week holiday. And those holy days became my place of residence, and I never went back. Um, so that was 5 years ago now. And I guess a year after, kind of bumping around the city in Lisbon and continuing to do some of my old patterns from London, but
Mhm.
it just with, under a different flag.
Sure.
I got a very clear call to go and live in the woods, to live on my own, to get to know myself. So I started jumping into cold waterfalls on
Mhm.
a Portuguese farm in the center of the country.
Yeah.
And I guess Phoenix was reborn at that time. Yeah. So yeah, that's been sort of my gateway into community living, community life. It did take me
Wonderful.
six, it
Yeah.
did take me about 6 months of, yeah, spiritual practice,
Mhm.
of dress rehearsal
Okay.
and getting to know myself, uh, breaking up with a woman I really loved, to be capable of being with others. I guess most of my life I was really good at doing. And there's a little song in my life which goes dooby 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 doo. So I decided to stop only doing and focus a little bit more on being. And now I do my best now to stay present, not to think too much about what I mean. I remember my dad, whenever I would say, when I was growing up, I would say, "Well, I think," and he would go, "Oh, that's dangerous." I
Oh,
didn't know what he was talking about at the
yeah,
time.
yeah. You sound just like him there. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. That is his sort of way of interjecting it in a very friendly way. And
Right.
gosh, though, I used to think he was so full of it. And now I catch myself when I speak with our community, how often I reference his words and his wisdom. It's remarkable. I'm so grateful for him coming into my life. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about the mountains, climbing the mountain of success, and then there's another higher mountain, that kind of, trying to do the best you can to be the best little boy you can, and get the recognition, perhaps, or the approval. Um, in a way, often it's like looking for the approval of the father or the mother sometimes. And but it sounds like you had that blessing, some people might call it, or fortune, to have that calling, as you call it, and you just sort of slid down from the mountain into the waterfall in the middle of the land. And it's like the sliding down from the mountains of the intellect or the left hemisphere of the brain down into the valleys, the cool, moist valley of the right hemisphere of the brain, which is more improvisation and intuition and creativity, spontaneity, and trusting in the body, the nature, the subconscious mind, the the dream state, and the higher intuition, and so on. So it's been a real transformation for you, right?
Um,
Big change in a relatively short period of time.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely. I mean, our community members. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. We have quite a large community here in Portugal called Spirit Tribe, with about more than 500 members. And when we gather, sometimes I share how I used to be. And I don't even remember that guy so much. It's very difficult to, gosh, I was in so much pain. So maybe to some extent I've even kind of pushed that aside, not to revisit it too much. I'd like to think that I do my best to face these things. The only way out is through, rather than sort of bypass and push it to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been quite a rapid transformation. And you asked about Fénix Stardust, and
Mm-hmm.
I suppose one of the reasons I prefer to be called that is because I'm very keen to have interactions and conversations with people that are non-programmatic. So what do I mean when I say that? I guess when I used to meet people in like the busyness world, then I would always ask, "What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do?" And for me, those questions are down the line of identify yourself. And that's kind of based in the realm of fear. Because yeah, okay, I'm trying to get to know them better. But that's not really them, especially in that now that we're mutually enjoying. And so when people say, "What's your name?" and I say Phoenix, they say, "Oh, is that your real name?" And then we get to talk about something which I doubt that they've had that conversation ever before. And we can talk about what a name is,
Yeah.
what does it mean, what's the power of a word. I often say words are spells. That's why it's called spelling. And yeah, and I guess Stardust because we're all made of the same stuff. So
Well, names are very powerful. It is magic, really. It's interesting in the calendar. There's a new calendar in the Baha'i faith for the new age that we're going into, and instead of 12 months, there's 19 months, each with 19 days, beginning on the spring equinox, first day of spring. But one of the 19 months, each month has the name of a spiritual attribute, and things like sovereignty and glory and beauty and so on. One of the months is called names.
wow, really?
Yeah.
And 19 days, is that something to do with the lunar cycle?
No, the lunar cycle is
No,
28 days. Well, two times 19
right.
is 28. So you could make a connection, I suppose. Yeah. It's 28-day cycle. It's a solar calendar, actually, because it begins when the sun goes into Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So,
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
but
Okay,
just to
so
illustrate the importance of names and everything, we name everything. This is a thermos, right? It has an origin, another language, Greek or Latin, perhaps, or some other language, and a history, etymology, they call it. And there's a sound, there's a vibration, there's a number, and so Phoenix Stardust. So Phoenix is like renewal, right? It's like the bird that arises from the ashes of the fire and is recreated. And stardust, well, we're all made of stardust, as the song says.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this
beautiful.
concept of thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by the realm of words and etymology indeed. Where do they come from? I I did a permaculture design course. I don't know, maybe some of the viewers will know about permaculture, permanent agriculture.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask you. Yeah, a lot of people probably have heard the name press, but they don't really know what it means. But if you could just speak for a moment about that and what your tribe is doing there in Portugal around it, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool. Cool. So I guess spending some time on this farm, I had a few revelations. One of which is I don't want to sell my time
Hmm.
doing something I don't like with people that I don't love
Right.
or necessarily love. And I thought, well, what would be a meaningful use of my time? And I started to get quite into nutrition and, I am what I eat. So I wanted to create my food. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know anything about that. I was a city kid living on this big farm. I couldn't grow a grape. So I did a permaculture design course. Permaculture it was invented by these two academics, and it's a 12-step, 12 principle driven philosophy, ideology, practice
Yeah.
where we work with nature in a natural order to create sustainable systems. And maybe even more than sustainable, they're sort of regenerative or exponential, that they grow and they give back and they're abundant in their nature. So when I started to study this, first on YouTube and then in books and then doing an actual 2-week course, I was amazed. I thought, this is so cool. We don't have to put pesticides on the cauliflower. We just need to get ducks. The ducks will eat the snails. The duck poop will fertilize the crops. The
Hmm.
duck meat will give us something, the duck eggs. So it was all sort of circular and intertwined. And
Yeah.
actually, you talk about spiritual awakenings. Halfway through the course, I was listening to this. The guy who leads the course was a former international musician, and he'd had this revelation whilst on tour in Sri Lanka. Like, what system are we living in? It's so extractive, so much consumption. I want to create something more meaningful. And he was speaking about planets and the universe and the moon and how it's all sort of interconnected. And I just was weeping in this class, which I thought we're going to learn about plants and fertilizer and compost. So
Mhm.
it sort of dawned on me that the principles of permaculture might actually be related to my own practice. The first principle, observe and interact. So rather than react to a pattern of an action I've already taken.
Yeah.
Oh, you did this, so I do that. I thought, well, what if I became the observer of me as I speak, and rather than just sort of someone feeding me lines and saying whatever, and not really being conscious of my communication. And yeah, I suppose through these two realms of conscious communication and permanent agriculture, so permaculture, a system that won't degrade, it'll flourish. I met a bunch of people who had similar passions. And I think a lot of young people are, looking at mom and dad and being like, God, do I want to be a lawyer for 25 years and pay for all this stuff I don't need? Or do I want to create something new? And it's not even new. I think this stuff is as old as we've been on the planet for, to some extent. And so, yeah, Spirit Tribe was born out of a passion for permaculture, conscious communication, also curiosity about spirituality. What does that mean? Um,
There's a
Maybe
place, I guess,
self-inquiry.
where a kind of a convergence where ecology, spirituality, agriculture, permaculture, religion, even perhaps science, all comes together, and it's this and spiritual practice is all the same. And I
Mm,
thought just yesterday I was walking in the park next door, and a few days ago I wrote a blog for the Substack about tree hugging and rediscovering the ancient art of hugging trees. And so I thought, "Oh, I better practice what I preach here, hug a tree." So it was early in the morning. There weren't too many people around. And I just sort of put my arms around a big tree and started to slow down. So
mm,
before I'd been walking and listening to an ebook and thinking and walking and listening. And I just stopped thinking as much as I could. And all of a sudden I started noticing animals moving. There were birds, there were squirrels, uh, the leaves branches of the tree were moving in a kind of a rhythm, a symphony. So there was a whole world there that I wasn't really noticing, even though I was walking in it. But once I stopped actively doing and just slowed down, was trying to be in the presence of the moment and with the help of the tree, which felt like it was just draining all my worries down into its roots, I
Mm.
rediscovered that world that's always been there. And as you say, our ancestors who were really tribal people in most cases um, had that close connection with nature, the animals in the trees, our animal brothers and the plant kingdom and the rocks. All our relations, our indigenous people say when they say a prayer or give a blessing with the sacred fire, all our relations, meaning all the kingdoms, not just
Mm.
the kingdom of the mind, of the human mind.
Yeah,
Well,
nice.
so coming around full circle to where you are now and making those decisions, those good decisions, to leave, at least for a while, what you had been trained to do and were doing, um, and dive into what your intuition was calling to you, your vocation there. So coming around to what you're actually doing now, you have a group of people, 500 people that are connected with you in some way. Now, are they expats like yourself or Portuguese people? A little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I guess living in the center of Portugal, where nobody speaks English, gave me
Yeah.
uh, the capacity to learn Portuguese and to connect with uh, yeah, people of this terreno, this land. So our community is more than half Portuguese. Which is it's quite different typically actually. And there's a lot of intentional communities in Portugal.
Yes.
Lots of Germans, lots of French, Dutch, English,
Yeah.
and it's lovely that at our events there's so much Portuguese spoken. So what do we do? How do we gather? I suppose on our first farm, there was about six of us, seven of us, and we started to host a few events. Some things went great, some things were very challenging. And we thought, okay, let's create some principles which help to guide our conduct, to give us some guidelines to what does a North Star look like? What are we aiming towards? So yeah, food, water, family, friends. And then we started to gather every month online and do a call. And those calls pretty well attended, 15, 20 to 30 people. And
Mhm.
then we started to gather every other month in person. And we would host little permaculture events around the country. So for people that are familiar with Portugal, all over Porto, Lisboa, Peniche in the center, Alentejo. And yeah, those events were also quite well attended. I suppose one of our mottos is to learn by doing. So none of us are experts, we're all students. And we do songs around the campfire, co-created meals. And I'd love to share one of the coolest early experiences that we had is we saw this van community, and beside the van community was a piece of land no one was using.
Mm.
And the van community I felt was had a really great social framework, and it wasn't sustainable because people had to go to the supermarket and buy things. So we thought, what if we take this piece of land and we turn it into a vegetable garden? About 40 people came, and a friend of mine, Johnny No Cash, he goes by, said, "I'll uh, I'll lead the permaculture side of things." So the night before the event, I said to him, "Okay, Johnny, so let's make a task list, let's make teams, let's have a spreadsheet." And John just said, "No, we're going to show up, we're going to look each other in the eyes, and everyone's going to know what they would like to do, and it's all going to come together beautifully." And it was like, for me, my rational mind, like, this sounds so lazy. But actually, it was wonderful. So much was created that I could have never imagined.
Mm.
And if I'd gone into classroom mode and said, this is what you guys have got to do, and been quite dictatorial, I wouldn't have seen that stuff created. So yeah, I guess those are events now. We've done probably about 30 or 40 at this stage. About 1,000 people have come. And we decided after renting two farms that it was time to make this a bit more solid and stable, a bit more permaculture permanent. So now I'm looking for land to buy so that some of our core team can live together and some of our community members can come and visit and learn about compost toilets and vermi toilets or what have you.
Right. So what would be your ideal property if you could just visualize right now and have all the elements that would sort of serve your vision and community?
Yeah, well, I'd really love to have a river that's big enough to swim in.
Yeah.
Gets quite hot in Portugal sometimes. I would like it to be isolated and accessible. I would like there to be houses where my parents can feel comfortable to sleep so that we can have enough discomfort to grow and enough comfort to feel safe.
Sweet spot.
Yeah, right in the sweet spot. And then enough flat land to grow our own food, maybe about 150 fruit trees. Not too inclined so that, yeah, Dr. T.G. Lewis can walk down to the river and put his creaky body into the cold water. Um, and yeah, I would like to be hmm, in a magical place. So some sort of forest, shade, not too raw. There's not a desert or something like that.
Something that has the
And
potential to grow because
yeah.
when it comes right down to it, we all have to eat almost every day. We can fast once in a while, but we need clean water and food. And if things break down, as they may do in the years to come, as we go through this tremendous uh, catalysm, is that the word? Catalysm? uh, it's a
Works.
process. Things are breaking down and crumbling. The so-called old world order, the institutions, and something new is becoming born. And to come out the other side, we need to have institutions and format, to be able to survive. So, hopefully,
Amen.
can you hear that ringing? Okay,
No,
my
no,
phone's
I'm
ringing.
okay.
Oh, it's just me that hears it. Good. um, I got a bit distracted there. I was trying to turn it off, but so hopefully the property that you find will be succulent, and be able to provide a context, of nourishment, literally as well as metaphorically, and provide a ground that you can develop unity. Now, one thing that
Mm.
interested me, and you sent me a little write-up about yourself, the blurb, as I say, and it said something about decision making taking place in your community through a process of love and understanding. But I'm curious because I'm a big fan of what we've called authentic dialogue and finding the protocols of how to have, a really successful, authentic dialogue. So you said that a group of people sort of came together and looked into one another's eyes and everybody knew what they were going to do. Could you break that down a little bit?
Hmm.
How that might happen. If you
Yeah.
let's say there's an important decision to be made, like where are we going to build the house, or how far from the river, and uh, nuts and bolts kinds of things. How do you come to an agreement or decision?
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose to my first and foremost, I know nothing. Every day I know less and less. Um, and I'm one of our principles is openness. So I think I do my best, and I presume most of our community members do their best to remain open, to allow the moment to speak the truth, to not come in with too many ideas and attachments. So that's another one of our principles is non-attachment.
Mhm.
I suppose another one is vulnerability. So I do my best not to project too much, not to judge. This is the way, this is what we need, rather to ask open questions, to communicate so that the community can discover its common unity. What do we want to see happen here? I honestly, I find it challenging because I'm someone who's quite comfortable speaking. I have quite a big character, I would say.
Yeah,
And coming from the world that I did, law and entrepreneurship, it's like, I know the answer. Well, let's go this way. And sometimes people want to jump on board with that. It's, oh, he knows.
of course.
I'll give him
Yeah.
the,
You have leadership potential, and they say that the true leader is almost invisible, but empowers other people to become leaders in their own right. So
right.
when you say a couple of times you've said you have done your best to demask yourself, and you're talking about vulnerability, but I sense a sincerity when you say that. I believe that you really are doing a pretty good job. I mean, it's one thing to say that, but to actually practice it. But I get a sense that there is a kind of a coherence between what you're saying and what you've been able to do with yourself. But when you find that ego, we all have it, and it's a huge thing, and we're all in the same boat, really, to one degree or another. When you come to, there it is, it gets triggered or encouraging, it just rises up from the ground, and there's that other part of you, that you've tried to sort of, whoa, basically, just slow down. Uh, how do you deal with it
Yeah.
in the moment? Like, how do you get back to that place of, openness and vulnerability, and gentleness, perhaps, and receptivity, intuition?
I think that there's three tools that are coming to mind. One is that our community members are great.
Mm.
They're really special folk who I also believe are one of our principles is embodiment. They're walking their talk. And I would like to think that when I'm in that space of, fear and doubt and old patterns that, my brothers David and Madia and Dansha and Luna, they say, hey, is this really what you feel, what you want?
Mm.
And I suppose that the second is a communication technology called the Way of Counsel, which we've started to implement.
Mm.
That's a heart-centered, spontaneous communication circle. So there's four agreements: to be spontaneous, to be concise, to speak from the heart, and to listen from the heart. And it is absolutely amazing the things that come out. It's really something. Yeah. If we're bought into it, if I'm bought into it, I speak for me. I do my best not to speak for we, I try and speak for me. If I'm bought into it, gosh, just the most beautiful things come forward, especially from the people who don't speak so much.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That sounds great. So just to review, I know you said there were three. Um, the first one, it sounds like you have enough trust among yourselves to be able to be honest and call one another on your shit. Somebody says, is that really, is this your true self speaking, or is it something else? Um,
Mhm.
and if we can do that in a kind way, or sometimes a little bit more confrontational, depending on what's needed in the moment, but to have that trust, uh, they say in social capital, trust is the number one attribute.
Right.
So to have the trust as sort of as a environment or a container, and then you have specific protocols that you can engender during the conversation uh,
Definitely.
from the heart. And what was in the third one? There's something else,
Well, I'm thinking as well of Don Miguel Ruiz's four agreements.
right? Yeah.
So one of them is to be impeccable with our word. And I suppose, implicit to that is I am listening to myself speak as I speak. And
Mm.
if I'm not okay with what I'm saying, then I'm the first filter. Don't just vomit my crap out everywhere and let everyone else pick up the pieces. I don't think that's particularly communal. It's like if I just didn't do the dishes ever. Um, and another agreement is don't take things personally.
Yeah.
Now I really struggle with that as well. Like if someone in our community who I really respect, value, and trust says some choice words about me to me, or and yeah, it often hurts. And I do my best not to assume anything, which is the third agreement. And I do my best, try my best. That's the fourth agreement. And yeah, like I like to make good faith assumptions that everyone's doing the best they can with the tools they've got.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd say those three particular tools
Yeah.
are very helpful and having fun. You know, if it's not, if somebody told me once, if it's not fun, it's not sustainable.
Right.
And I think that's really cool. You know,
Yeah.
let's play some music around the campfire, play some games, you know, let the child out. Yeah. Yeah. That's what
That's
I
where the
feel is key
goofiness
to
comes
it.
from.
Hmm.
The wiggle room.
Totally. Totally.
Well,
I
it sounds like a very enchanting place you have there. So, if are you open for business? Like, is your community open to if some of our listeners and viewers are interested in contacting you?
absolutely. Yeah.
I can put a
For the time being, we're still looking for land. Now, we have identified one property that's absolute. It fits. When I was imagining it, I no longer am dreaming of somewhere else. I see that place in mind. It's beautiful, 1 kilometer of riverfront,
right.
5.5 hectares, a
Oh,
few ruins to build up.
oh yeah.
And I'm right now toying with the idea of crowdfunding because I have saved up as much as I can in my piggy bank and I don't have the remaining funds. So, you know, you can't spell fundraising without fun. So maybe I'll go for that. You know, and I did that in my past life so that somehow that's speaking to me like Phoenix, you don't have to carry the whole load. There are so many people who want good food. And, you know, I'm going to quote my dad on something as well. There's a big movement towards healing, right? People are going to retreat centers and there's spiritual events and ecstatic dances and cacao ceremonies.
Yeah.
My dad said something to me a while ago, which I didn't understand. He said, to be healed is to be fully seen by another. And I thought, "Okay, what does that mean?" And he said, the only way another can see you is if you see yourself and you show off the most vulnerable parts. And I feel there's something implicit to that, that I'm committed to my healing. And I think that's really it. As soon as I decided, all right, enough's enough. I'm so bored of being in pain all the time.
What would you like?
Something
What part of yourself would you like to be seen that perhaps has not been seen very much or by very many people? If you could expand that circle of trust a little farther and, really resonate with your authentic self and be vulnerable. I mean, right here on Substack, even, right in the
yeah,
present.
yeah.
Well, what wants to
Yeah.
be seen?
I suppose the darker side of me here, like, uh, I suppose because of the character, the mask that I still wear,
Yeah.
people think I'm a big guy, so I'm tall, and people, I speak loud. And so I think a lot of folks think I know something, and maybe to be held a little bit more, sort of in my own vulnerability, in my own uh, quiet, still, soft self. Because I am a lot more soft and sensitive and kind than I think I let on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What
I
I'm
do my
hearing is
best to share that now.
that because you are experienced, excuse me, capable, big and strong, booming voice, have leadership qualities. Probably a lot of people depend on you for guidance or protection or well-being. And it really sounds like the vulnerable part that you're sharing right now is that you're just being soft pussycat inside, but that you need to be able to depend on others for some of that nurturing. and to be held, literally, even to be hugged and or reassured, and sometimes people just to say to, hey, you don't have to do anything today, just be around. We love your presence. Just go lie down in the hammock, and it's so nice to have you here on the back 40. If you don't have to organize
Sounds,
the thing, make any decisions.
oh, that sounds great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just before this our chat now, somebody said it sounds to me, Phoenix, like there's a leadership crisis at Spirit Tribe. And I said, I don't feel it's a leadership crisis. What I'm crying out for, what I'm calling out for is some support,
yeah,
some to share the load. Because I love to carry the big heavy bags, guys. I love it. And this isn't about me. I want to do this together. So yeah, that's something that I feel now. And I guess this fundraising is part of that. Like, I think I just have to give people something to say yes to. And I believe that by sharing what I just shared with you now, maybe that's I gotta ask for help, right?
exactly. And maybe on some level, on the etheric level or the spiritual level, the psychic level, just by publicly asking for help now and sharing what you just shared and mentioning the crowdfunding, maybe that will release a little lock, in the system so that the water can start to flow through the dam.
Sounds good. All right, we need a bit of help, folks. So if you want to be a part of this community experience, I'd love you to participate. If it resonates, this is a very authentic group of people who are doing their best. So I'd love you to be part of that if that resonates. There you go, Hugh. Thanks for the reminder.
Absolutely. So afterwards I'll put a link where people can get in touch with you or whatever you can let me know. And I won't be putting the video up immediately, maybe tomorrow or the next day, sometime this week. So if you want
Cool.
to have a couple of websites or links or whatever, that'd be great. Well, perhaps there's so much more that we could go into. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better because we chatted once briefly, I think. And
Yeah.
I would love to visit you someday over there. And in the meantime, keep us involved and in the loop about. I really am visualizing that ideal center that you will have to be the home of your vision. And vision is an important thing. Not everybody has one. Everybody could have one, but it sounds like you're definitely on the path of articulating and seeing through the obscurity, the clarity, the impeccability of vision so that it can come about, start to acquire a form, like an idea becomes a thought form. And then other
Mhm.
people share the same thought and it gets even stronger and stronger. So it almost becomes like a physical thing, which can eventuate into a manifested project, of course. So is there a name for the center?
Well, for now, it'll be Spirit Tribe. We don't have, I think without the physical place and feeling it.
Right.
But our last two projects were called Vera, which was related to truth.
Right.
I believe truth is kind of the building block of love.
Yeah.
And Alta Presenza, so talking about that presence of being in higher awareness of what's going on around us. So something along those lines.
Okay. It will precipitate when the time is right.
Yeah, that's it. And I want to say thank you, Hugh, for the work you're doing. I think it's really remarkable and really, I love the tone of the language. And yeah, there's some really the Coda sound method. I've enjoyed learning about that. And yeah, so thank you for you. It's really great stuff, man.
Very much. It's nice to be recognized and to share a little time with a fellow traveler. So, from my heart to your heart, I send you a virtual hug, and maybe I'll even send a couple of dollars to the crowdfunding.
Oh, oh, that's so great.
Put my
Thanks,
money
Hugh.
where my
Appreciate
mouth is.
it. Yeah, right. Oh,
So
that's great. Well, yeah.
we'll keep it fairly short for today and sign off. And so great to have you here, Phoenix. Maybe we'll have you
Thanks,
back
Hugh.
someday.
That sounds great. See you
Very good.
guys.
Adiós. Obrigado.